Dave Chappelle came to us in the midst of wild waves of speculation about him. How could one of the most promising comedians of recent history have left a successful television series? How could he have walked away from a $50 million contract? Who in his right mind could have done that? Why did he go to Africa? And what did he do there? The answers to those questions will be found in this episode of Inside the Actor's Studio, but they're only the tip of the iceberg of an amazing piece of work called Dave Chappelle. Few of our more than 200 guests have brought more intriguing questions or a more incandescent talent to our stage. That's why a line of 700 people snaked around Pace University at 5 p.m. for a 7 o'clock start. And why at 7, with every seat in our theater taken, the line outside seemed undiminished. Dave lives in Yellow Springs, Ohio, America's last authentically hippie community. In order to be with us, he volunteered to charter a private flight to New York at his expense, since we're a school and the studio is a not-for-profit institution, neither of which can afford private charters. As 7 p.m. neared, Dave's team had arrived from various directions, but he hadn't. And promptly at 7, his PR rep handed me her cell phone. It was Dave, explaining apologetically that he was in Buffalo, where they'd had to land for refueling. Since I'm a pilot, I conferred with Dave's pilot, and we established an ETA at New Jersey's Teterboro Airport in about an hour and a half, and Dave's arrival at Pace in 2 hours, if everything went perfectly. I went out to the stage, explained the situation to the audience, and proposed that we'd show them the Chappelle show on our screen until Dave arrived, an offer they accepted with an equanimity that bordered on frenzied enthusiasm. For nearly 2 hours, the house rocked with laughter. Then, with no sign of Dave's plane yet at Teterboro, we distributed wristbands to the audience, many of whom had been here for 4 hours, and told them to go out for food and drink, but to be back in their seats by 9:30. At 9:30, every seat was filled, and a line of hopefuls still waited outside. At 10, Dave arrived, and at 10:15, I introduced him to the audience. At 2 in the morning, we wrapped the show to a cheering house in which there wasn't an empty seat. For what happened in between, see the contents of this DVD, and decide for yourself whether it was worth the 9 hours our devoted audience devoted to it. There are a couple of postscripts. The day after Dave's episode aired, producer Norman Lear and Dustin Hoffman called me for Dave Chappelle's phone number. The next day, my wife and I attended the premiere of Dave Chappelle's block party, where Dave told me Lear and Hoffman had called him and that he'd meant what he said on stage when he suggested that he and I team up in something. 2 weeks later, my telephone answering machine informed me early one morning that Dave Chappelle had called at 1 a.m. Less surprised than I might have been a few weeks earlier, I called Dave's representative, Carla, who said matter-of-factly, "Oh, Dave was on stage at the Improv, and the audience was telling him how much they loved Inside the Actor's Studio, and when they started asking him about you, he pulled out his cell phone, said, 'Ask him yourself,' and dialed you on his speed dial." When I asked Carla what Dave thought would have happened if he'd wakened me, she said, "Oh, he was planning to put his phone up to the mic." And then do half an hour with you, something like that. Getting to know Dave Chappelle is a privilege unlike any other I can describe or recommend. All I can say is fasten your seatbelts, press play on your DVD, and do 2 hours with Dave Chappelle. Occasionally, we're privileged to examine the craft of one of the acknowledged leaders of a generation. Tonight, as we reach the midway point of our 12th year, is such a night. Our guest has made us look at ourselves and laugh at ourselves in an array of films from Robin Hood Men in Tights to Getting In, The Nutty Professor, Con Air, Half-Baked, You've Got Mail, Blue Streak, and Undercover Brother. In television, he has brought his unique, hilarious perspective to Def Comedy Jam, Comic Relief, frequent guest appearances wherever comedy counts, and in his live concert performances, Killing Them Softly, For What It's Worth, and Dave Chappelle's Block Party. The groundbreaking show that bears his name has been honored with Emmy and Image Award nominations and broken every record for DVD sales of a television show. The Actors Studio is very proud to welcome Dave Chappelle.
Everybody's waiting to see how crazy I am. Huh? That's good, that's good.
For 11 and a half years, my job on this stage has been to trace for our students the journey that has resulted in the artist in that chair at this moment. It begins always logically at the beginning.
I'm sorry for
What
laughing.
you didn't know is that I'm really funny. He appreciates me. Sometimes you don't. He does. Oh. Where were you born, Dave?
Washington, D.C.
What's your father's name?
William David Chappelle.
And your mother's?
Yvonne Reed Chappelle.
What were they doing in Washington when you were born? How did you happen to be there?
I have no idea. I know sex was involved. And then somehow, no, I'm just kidding. What were my, you know, it's funny. My mom and my dad are very educated people. My dad was doing some corporate. I think he was doing statistics.
In the course of this series, we've constructed an honor roll of impressive mothers. My research has indicated to me that your mother belongs in that number.
She's gonna love this.
But I think she deserves that.
I do too.
What's her educational background?
She's got a master's in divinity, a PhD in African American studies, and something else about some sociology. She's got a stack of degrees in the house somewhere.
Didn't she have a career in the Congo when Patrice Lumumba?
Yes, she worked for Lumumba. He hired her himself, and she worked there during the Civil War. She was there when he was assassinated.
What did your mother do when she returned to the United States?
She opened the Belinda Center at the Central State University.
This was in Ohio.
Yeah, in Ohio.
My research indicates that she established what may have been the first PhD program in black studies in 1974.
Yeah.
She was a pioneer.
Yeah, she was, and in a lot of ways, I think she still is.
You may know or may not know, she taught Lingala.
That I didn't know.
It's a Congo language. She taught it at Central State University. Did she share any of her linguistic gifts with you?
I barely speak English.
Your father also had an academic career.
Yes.
Where did he teach?
Antioch College. It's in Yellow Springs, Ohio. It's a real, like, hippie town.
It's a hippie college.
It's the hippie college.
Yes, it is.
Antioch, if you'll remember, is the school that had the sex policy. Ask every step of the way. May I kiss your breast?
Did you have any siblings?
I have two. I have a brother and a sister.
Where'd you go to elementary school?
Woodland Elementary, Silver Spring, Maryland.
With an academic environment at home, how did you do in elementary school?
Very poorly.
Why?
I never liked school from the first day. I just walked in there and said, I hate this place. I hate its guts. I hated school, and I know it's not good to say to students, but the way my mom introduced me to school was kind of traumatic, because she didn't tell me I was going. She's packing a lunchbox and all this stuff was happening, and I thought we was going for a walk. And then we walked into school, and she was like, I'm bouncing. I was just in there. And I cried, man, I cried. And these kids were just so mean and evil. I don't know if people remember their first day of kindergarten, but it was like, I felt like all these kids had met each other before, and I was the only one that didn't know anybody. I got in a fight. This kid, I still remember his name, Paul. We were coloring it. He was coloring corn green. It really bugged me. And I told him that corn was yellow, and he started hitting me, and I was like, this is the coldest shit that's ever happened to me in my life. It was just like instantly life had changed.
So color was already an issue.
Color was an issue. You guys very good?
Did television play a role in your life when you were a kid?
I watched an incredible amount of television. Before I could tell time from a clock, I would tell it from a television. That I could turn on the TV and say, oh, this is on, it's 7:30. I watched so much TV, man. I was always like a escapist.
Yeah.
You know, I was the odd kid out. Like, I didn't tell you this about my first day in kindergarten. I peed in the nap time. I peed, which instantly set me apart from everybody. Like, you can't do that. Right. But we were having juice. It got so good to me, and then I wasn't. And my older brother was like freakishly good-looking dude, you know. Me, I mean, I'm all right. But, you know, everyone in my family was light-complected, except for me. And I'm telling you, from a young age, I noticed people were treating me different. But I didn't understand why they would treat me different.
Yeah.
And I do believe to this day that that had something to do with it. Excuse me.
One of the things you're not allowed to do on this show is to fake tears.
All right, I'm sorry.
This is inside the actor's studio. We don't fake tears here. It's still fake. What middle school did you go to, Dave?
Arthur E. Morgan Middle School, which no longer exists. And that's in Yellow Springs. It was, I guess, right after my last year in elementary school, my mom moved us, like before we lived right on the outskirts of Washington, on the dividing line.
Yeah.
Then Mom moved us in the Northwest. We moved to D.C., man, and it was like the neighborhood was wild, and I was just at that age where I would want to start running the streets,
right, so
to speak. So my mom sent my brother and I to live with my father in Yellow Springs.
I see.
4,500 people. Maybe now there's like 3,700 people in that town. So.
And all of them slightly different from the rest of the United States.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's a hippie town. My dad at the time was involved in some like human rights group that was dedicated to ending racism. But it's a small town, so racism is a relative term. Hating black people would mean I hate like 25 people in this town. You know what I mean?
How old were you when your parents separated?
My parents split up when I was 2. And I don't remember them married.
What high school did you attend in Washington?
Duke Ellington, School of the Arts. Well, first I went to Eastern High School for half of a school year. I transferred to Duke Ellington. See, this is the thing. When I came back from Ohio, like I left when I was like 10, almost 11. I came back when I was 13, going on 14. While I was gone, crack had come out. So I got like a before and after. It was like a crack bomb had gone off. Like D.C. during the crack epidemic was probably one of the worst cities in America. It definitely was the murder capital. My freshman year of high school, 560 kids my age murdered. It's heavy, man, you know. Everybody I knew sold cracks. Only God knows how many people were smoking crack. And that made a real big impression on me. That and the fact that D.C. is a very segregated city, especially at that time. Statistically speaking, to this day, statistically speaking, there's not one poor white person in Washington. There's a lot of poor black people in Washington. So these are the things that I'm seeing, and I didn't like that shit, man. I didn't like going to Eastern. So I was going through a real tough time, man, like just readjusting. And my mom bought me this Time magazine with Bill Cosby on the cover, Cosby Inc. Me and the guy had a lot of stuff in common, like some of the quotes he would say. And I just remember, like after reading that stuff, I put it down, and it was like, I'm gonna be a comedian. And man, I'm telling you, I could see it so clearly. So clearly, man. This is it. I was so excited, I told my family, I have an announcement to make, I'm gonna be a comedian. You know, it was like real. Because I was always funny. I'm the youngest kid, you know. The youngest kid in the family usually plays that role of the tension breaker.
Right.
I was that dude. And that's when my mom suggested that maybe I go to a comedy club and check it out. Live comedy is the most incredible thing in the world to me. Like the first time you see a dude just standing there talking, and every joke he's saying just hitting, it was working. Every weekend I would go, I'd get a little money, and to the point they started knowing me, I'd just sit in the crowd and I'd just be watching. And then on Tuesdays they had an open mic, and I go on Tuesday to see why people weren't working. Weekends were to see why people were working. Tuesday I was figuring out what's wrong with these people. To watch a comedian bomb is one of the greatest things in the world. I love it. And then at that point I was talking to a comedian after one of the shows, and the owner of the comedy club, and they were both saying, you know, if you want to be a good comedian, you got to take acting classes. And they didn't explain it. But after that, I went home and I said, Mom, I got to take acting classes. And that's how the Duke Ellington thing started.
That's a school of the arts, right?
Yeah.
And what did you study there?
Theater. The school is incredible. Classical acting, modern acting, improvisation, technical theater, script analysis, script writing.
Did you work while you were in school in Washington?
Yeah, okay. Let's run down the list. My first job, summer, between 87 and 88 school year.
Now, this is a tradition. The first person in the 11 and a half years of this series who ever smoked on stage was Sean Penn, and the students applauded him then. Tonight, you light up a cigarette, the students, what do you got about cigarettes? You like cigarettes? They applaud when you smoke.
I don't know about y'all, but this shit is stressing me out. feel like I'm confessing and stuff. This everything feel like I'm on trial in this. Tell me about that thing. I mean, you know, I don't know. I was a child and it's all so wild, Mr. Lipton. All right, so, the first job, and remember, this is when people were making a lot of money selling drugs. $3.50 an hour. August, I had to dress up in a cookie costume. Not bullshitting, a cookie costume with chocolate chips and a big chocolate chip on my head, sweating. And I had to hand out flyers for this place called the Cookie Bag. When I started at Duke Ellington, it was like you go to school from 8 o'clock in the morning till at least 5 o'clock at night. So work stopped for a while. And then, you know, that nightclub thing kicked in.
Was your early comedy autobiographical?
Still don't talk about myself.
It isn't.
It's yes, but never directly. I don't want to give away my secret recipe. But originally my plan was I'll go to school, and then after I graduate, I'll start stand-up. But then I was like, I'm going to the club after school. It's Tuesday, so I'm going to go to that open mic night. I had been practicing with the candlestick in the mirror. I felt like I was ready. And I told my family I was going. Told my mom, you know, I'm going. I don't want you to come. I want to go by myself. It's something I got to do and whatever. So, of course, she shows up with my grandmother and my brother. The MC introduced me. I can remember the introduction. You know, folks, everybody's got to start sometime, and tonight is this young man's first time on stage. Who knows? Exactly what it says. Who knows? You may be witnessing the birth of a star. Please welcome Dave Chappelle. And I went up there, man, and I was scared. And I used to look at my feet when I started. And I said the first joke, looking down at my feet, and they laughed. And then I looked up, like, holy. And then I looked back down at my feet and said, no. And after the set, you know, the crowd was going crazy. I think I did 2.5 minutes, but they were going crazy. I was 14, probably looked like I was 11. Jesus. I was telling jokes about Jesse Jackson running for president and Alf's spaceship landing in a black neighborhood. Because before I going on, I was scared, and I told my grandmother, like, you might hear me say some things that you might not want to hear your grandson say. And she said, just relax and do that shit. I said, whoa, I never heard it come. So it went great. And then here's the kicker. So then I go to school the next day, you know, feeling like $1 million. And I go and I'm telling all the kids at school, guess what I did last night? Comedy club. Ripped, the crowd was going crazy, you know. And you know what they said? Cool. And it was the beginning of a dual life. By day, I was Clark Kent. And at night, I was Superman. You know, pretty girl in school might look at me and be like, oh, Dave, he's so funny, but I wouldn't date him. But at night, I'd date women your mother's age, if I wanted.
Did you move to New York to do some stuff?
Yeah. I said, I'm going to go to that Apollo and rip that mug. I went for the regular Wednesday amateur night. When I say I got booed off stage,
God.
I still remember that boo. I'd never been booed off stage before, but I just remember looking out and seeing like everybody booing, everybody. Even old people. I was like, who boos a child pursuing his dreams? Like, this is the meanest crowd in the world. And that siren went off, and that dude comes out tap dancing.
Sandman.
Sandman. I wanted to choke the shit out. I hate you. I was like, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me. Best thing, because before that time, I had never bombed, let alone got booed off stage. And bombing was horrifying. Nobody wants to bomb. Nobody, you know, when people say you do comedy, what happens if nobody laughs? I don't know. So that night was liberating because I failed so far beyond my wildest nightmares of failing that it was like, hey, they're all booing. My friends are here watching, my mom. This is not that bad. And after that, I was fearless. To get into the New York comedy circuit is a very closed circuit. And I got in all these clubs in like a week, 2 weeks. Like, that's just reputation. Have you seen this kid? Have you seen this kid? I was like that dude.
How old were you when you made your first TV development deal?
19. My mother and my grandmother were freaked out. You know, I was the first person in my family not to go to college that had not been a slave.
Right.
So I was really breaking from tradition, and it was like a graduation lunch we were having, and they had my dad come and talk to me, and my dad takes me outside, and he's like, listen, and this is some advice that applies to all you acting students. He says, to be an actor is a lonely life. Everybody wants to make it, and you might not make it. And I said to my dad, well, that depends on what making it is, Dad. He was a smart-ass kid.
Yeah.
It depends on what making it is, Dad. He says, what do you mean? I said, well, you're a teacher. I said, if I can make a teacher salary doing comedy, I think that's better than being a teacher. And he started laughing. He said, if you keep that attitude, I think you should go. He said, but name your price in the beginning. If it ever gets more expensive than the price you name, get out of there. Mm-hmm. Thus, Africa. Oh, man. Yeah, oh, you guys are going to learn a lot tonight.
What can they learn?
You know, like, you guys are students now, so you're idealists, but you don't know about where art and corporate interests meet yet. Just prepare to have your heart broken. Like, in a way, you see him laughing, that evil laugh? Because he knows, man, and everybody laughs at me, but just get your Africa tickets ready, baby, because it's coming. It's coming. You have no idea. The first pilot I did was called I'm the Man, and it didn't get picked up. It was real painful because I had experienced nothing but success. Took it like a bitch, man. I was really upset. And that's when I started smoking that weed, man. It just made me feel better, man. I'm not trying to tell kids to do that. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't tell anybody to do it, but that's how I dealt with my problems. And at the time, it was working out great, baby. I was smoking that weed. I'm just being real, you know. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of white kids, you got things accessible to you like therapy. We don't have that. We have liquor stores and weed.
You've called The Nutty Professor one of your favorite film assignments. Why?
I just remember the first day at work, and I'm walking on the set, and this fat dude comes up like, hey, man, you're real funny. I'm like, thanks. Oh, yeah, Eddie Murphy. He had that makeup on, and he knew my jokes. He started telling obscure jokes I did, like he knew them. And every day we would do takes, man. I mean, somewhere this footage exists, and when they say cut, I mean, those extras would be cheering. I mean, it was like me and Eddie we would dance, and Eddie would drop these jewels on me, you know, when we're working. He's a real wise dude. Seen a lot of Eddie Murphy. And he was the guy that was like, you gotta start writing. He was like, the way you tell jokes, you think in pictures, and you can write. you should start doing it. And that was the big Nutty Professor breakthrough.
In The Nutty Professor, Dave plays a severely manic comic named Reggie Warrington, who uses his comic skills to humiliate Eddie Murphy as the hapless Sherman Klump. A lesson for this evening: comedy can be cruel.
Yeah. Somewhere there's a black professor watching this, like, buffoonery. But that made me laugh saying that, because I remember when I said that who was sucking whose titties land, and Eddie was like doing the Sherman, and he was drinking, and then I said it, and the water shot out of his nose. And he said, I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting that. And that was the best feeling, like, to make Eddie Murphy break characters was very, to this day, man, forget the Emmy nomination, that was the best.
Who wrote Half Baked?
It was me and Neil and Purple Haze.
Tell us about that writing process. How did you guys work?
I can't remember. I was high, man. I was high. The night before we had these series of pitch meetings, we were like, man, we don't have a story. And at the time, you know, I drank a little beer, so we drank some beer. Neil doesn't smoke weed. I smoked me some weed. And suddenly, we had this story, this weird story about killing a police horse and needing to raise money. And it was really weird the way it happened, man. But it was really inspired, Half-Baked. I liked smoking weed so much that I thought I should make a movie about this. And it was inspired, man. It was like, you know, it was inspired. When that script came out, me and Neil, we were hot as a pistol for a week. The script was way better than the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that script was dope.
Dave, who do you play in the movie?
I played Thurgood Jenkins.
Thurgood Jenkins.
Yes.
But that's only half the story. Who else do you play in the movie?
Oh, I played Sir Smoke-A-Lot.
One of my favorite scenes is the one that involves both Thurgood and Sir Smoke-A-Lot.
Very embarrassing, homie.
I think it's a remarkable piece of acting. That's why I wanted to play it.
I'm sorry, man. For me, it's a little surreal being on the actor studio and just to see you like, and then you did Half-Baked.
When Martin Lawrence was in that chair, we talked about Blue Streak.
I love that dude.
He played a role in your life, I believe. How do you feel about him as a person, as an artist?
Martin Lawrence is the guy that showed everybody you can make it from D.C. to Hollywood. And I had a personal stake in his success. Every time he did something, it made me feel inspired and really good. And he was always real nice to me. He'd sit me down, "What's going on with you, baby boy? What? We'd talk about comedy, whatever." And, you know, when we did Blue Streak, we were promoting it, and Martin had a stroke. He almost died. And then after that, I saw him, and I was like, "Oh, my God, Martin, are you okay?" And he said, "I got the best sleep I ever got in my life." That's how tough he is. So let me ask you this. What is happening in Hollywood that a guy that tough will be on the street waving a gun, screaming, "They are trying to kill me"?
Yeah.
What's going on? Why is Dave Chappelle going to Africa? Why does Mariah Carey make a $100 million deal and take her clothes off on TRL? A weak person cannot get to sit here and talk to you. Ain't no weak people talking to you. So what is happening in Hollywood? Nobody knows. The worst thing to call somebody is crazy, is dismissive. I don't understand this person, so they're crazy. That's bullshit. These people are not crazy. They're strong people. Maybe the environment is a little sick. Oh, I'm dropping dimes tonight. I've had a long year, Mr. Lipton.
We're on our way. What did you mean, Dave, when you described your father's death in 1998 as the beginning of a terrible decline?
I was 23 when I was doing Half Baked. I was getting ready to turn 24. And I was going through all the things that a dude goes through when it goes from one level to the next. I was starring in a movie that I wrote. So things start getting crazy around you.
Yeah.
And my 24th birthday was coming on August the 24th, and I said, this is going to be a big one. And the morning that I turned 24, phone rang, and my sister was like, Dad had a stroke. For the next year, I watched my father teeter on life and death. And it was just all this stuff, man. Like Dad was dying, the Half Baked didn't come out the way I wanted it to come out. I was real upset about that. Because it was a real cool script, and then I saw it, I was like, hey man, you made a weed movie for kids. And it wasn't for kids, a script, you know. It was all these things, so much pressure. Africa. Then I was in Ohio. I get a call on my cell phone from Hollywood. I'm like, hello, Hollywood. They're like, hello, Dave. They're like, that pilot you did for Fox, looks like they want to pick it up. We need you to come out because they want to meet with you. And I was like, well, listen, I can't really come out right now. Got a real bad situation at home. Can we talk about this on the phone? No, they would rather meet with you in person. But you know, like the horror that they turned us into, I jumped on that plane and left my father's bedside, which I regret to this day, and I went out and I sat with these people in this room, and if you can imagine a large circle of people, and I was 12 o'clock, the black dude. Yeah, Dave, we really liked the show, but the pilot episode was about me getting booed off stage at the Apollo. They go, you know, but what are we going to do about it? I mean, there's not really any white people in it. I said, well, it's about the Apollo. It's not really white. Well, you know, we were thinking about the girl on the show. We didn't think she was that funny, not that good looking. I think we should recast her, maybe. And they started using terms like universal appeal. Basically saying they want me to recast a girl with a white woman. I said, yeah, I don't think I can do this, and I quit. On the cover of Variety, Chappelle pulls the race card. The race card. And I get calls from Newsweek, 60 Minutes. Everybody, we want your story. Now I'm scared to death. I'm like Rosa Parks or something. Like, I'm not ready for this. I was just venting a little bit. And then, a few months later, Dad dies. And that's hard for a young dude in his life. That's a real tough loss. I was there when he died. And he went from being my father to what are we going to do with the body? Within moments, it was over. And I'm going through all this stuff, and this is the guy I would usually talk to, right? Dad. And I got to figure this out for myself. I don't want to figure this out for myself. You know, I was beat down. I wasn't living right. You know what I mean? Like, the weed thing was just a bad habit at this point. And you know what I mean? All these, you know, chicken head girls you mess with when it comes with the territory. I'm just being real. Just being real. just wasn't living right, man. I didn't feel good, and the stand-up stuff was just some angry stuff. It was just like I was kind of bottoming out. But when my dad died, because I've been commuting back and forth to Ohio so much, that's when I bought the farm, which I called the you Hollywood farm.
Did you stay in Yellow Springs for a while?
I live there to this day. I live there to this day. I'm raising my kids there. Look, man, at that point in your life, it's something so real in contrast to what Hollywood is, a very powerful illusion. And when your dad died, it kind of just broke the spell, like, oh, this is bullshit. Look, I've been spending so much time doing this. What about my family? What about my friends? Wait, whatever happened to my friends? Damn, I don't even have any friends. Ugh. So I bounced, man. New Year's Eve, 1999, I moved into that farm, and that was it. As far as I was concerned, I was done with show business.
The comedians I've worked with over the years often don't laugh at jokes. Can you be amused by your own work, by other people's work?
I love my jokes.
Good.
Some jokes, like, you know, I got this real immature streak where I write a lot of scatological humor.
So I've heard.
You know. But a good joke will just never, they last, they hold up. I just like having fun. When I'm on stage, I get real happy up there. Like, maybe that's the only time in my adult life that I feel like myself. You're standing up there, you know what I mean? Like a gladiator. And them lights is on you, and you look down, and everyone's looking up at you like. And it's just all these smiles around you, and they get dressed, and they put perfume on and stuff, and they're going to see your show. That feels good, man. These people, you know, they love you. Even if it's for a minute, they really do. They love you, man. You know, it's like it's a love fest.
Good feeling.
Yeah, it's the best feeling, man. I love stand-up.
In 2000, you taped a concert for HBO.
Yes.
Called Killing 'Em Softly.
Killing 'Em Softly.
To borrow a comedian's term of art, Dave killed in that concert.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
The setup for this is that his limo driver says he's got to stop somewhere. So he stops in the ghetto. And it's Dave in the ghetto in a limo.
Yes.
Huh?
He gets it. He gets it. That's it.
But the thing is that you do exactly what a honky would do in the ghetto. You lock the doors, right? So you have ambivalent feelings. You're drawn to it, and you're.
And I'm afraid. Listen, man. Black people don't like the ghetto.
Like you and me, you mean?
Yeah. Nobody wants to live in the ghetto, but the joke is so dope. Man, I got to pat myself on the back. That shit is because it's based off of true stories. Yes. The joke starts out, I'm in a limousine. I knew he was taking me to the ghetto because I'm looking out the window. I'm like, gun store, liquor store. Where the hell are you taking me? Boom. So, okay, there's a little statement, but it's not preachy, but I'm just painting a picture. I'm painting a picture, right? Then we get to the ghetto, and then I do the baby standing on the corner. That was in Washington. I saw some kids running around playing, and I was like, who has their kids just running out on the streets like this? Okay, true story. Now, did the baby talk to me? No. Was he selling weed? No, but I was making a point, you know? I was making a very subtle point, and here I am, a black man in a limousine. Now we get into the class issues.
Right.
In the ghetto. So it's truth in jest. You know, I pride myself on saying real shit that people don't even notice I'm saying. But they feel it, because when people come up to me, they say, I love that. they can feel it, but I don't think they really know. So when you pointed that out, I was very impressed, man. And then sometimes I just tell shit jokes. That's the beauty of it.
One of the virtues of the work of black comedians is that it provides for the rest of us, and for the black population as well, insights into black life and black thinking that quite simply would never occur to the white members of the audience, like this.
That stuff is harsh.
It's lovely. I notice with both Martin and you that when you play white dudes, I can talk like that. Now, don't make fun of me. That when you play white dudes, your speech is pitch perfect, which led me to realize that either one of you could, if you wished, speak that way all the time. In other words, is it a matter of choice?
Every black American is bilingual. All of them. We speak street vernacular and we speak job interview. There's a certain way I gotta speak to have access. If I'm sitting across the table from a studio exec, you know, sometimes they'll do it to me. Say, my man, what's happening? I'm so, hold up, no. And I gotta throw out them big words. I gotta let them know that my parents are probably smarter than your parents.
Yeah. And much better educated.
They're much better educated than your parents, but they may not have had the access that your parents had. But this is show business. I can climb that socioeconomic ladder just off the merit of my skills. I can talk that shit. It's a God-given gift. So, you know, yeah, I speak in street vernacular because when I'm talking to an audience of people, I feel comfortable. It's like an extension. Really, crowds are like my friends. It's the most consistent part of my life since I was 14. But in certain situations, you know, I gotta use that job interview well. I don't like that deal.
One of the many things I admire about comedians is their powers of observation, as we're seeing tonight over and over again. They notice things that the rest of us miss, like what those of the white persuasion eat.
Care for a glass of grape juice? What?
That is funny.
You're damn right it is. Can you see a time in your life ever when you won't be doing stand-up?
This past year, I did the least stand-up I've done since I started. 'Cause I was freaked out, man, with the fame thing and being called crazy and drug addict and all these things. Scared me. You know, just being treated that way. Like I'm not a person anymore. You say this shit about me in front of my children, and you know, who the f do these people think they are? And they don't know what happened. You know, I have not spoken about what would make a person walk off the set of a successful show and go to Africa. But again, people don't understand it, so they call me crazy, and I don't like that.
What should they understand, Dave?
What should they understand? Well, I did 2 seasons, and it was very easy. Not very easy, but I didn't go to Africa. And then suddenly, when I'm getting paid what they said was $50 million, I can't do it anymore. Nobody knows. Nobody remembers that I walked away from the show twice last season. Nobody asked about that. You know, in one of these magazines, Newsweek, it's a very credible magazine. And they're saying, you know, maybe I smoke crack, and it was all innuendo. And the magazine as credible as Newsweek, I was very surprised that this was happening. And then I got to make some real choices, man. Is that what I want for myself? Did I get too big? Because I like people. I like entertaining. And the higher up I go, for some reason, the less happy I am. You know, is it going to get to the point where I'm doing a striptease on TRL or waving a gun on the street, saying they're trying to kill me? No, I'm not going to let it get to that point. I'm going to go to Africa. I'm going to find a way to be myself, man. I gotta, you know, I'm an artist, man. I don't need a sneaker deal. I mean, I'd like one, but that's not the need that makes you guys go to school. You're not in this school right now because you want a sneaker deal. It'd be nice, but that's not why you're here, right? You're not here because, you know, you'd like to be in the movies, but to act or to entertain it's a need that maybe a lot of your friends don't even understand. But you got that need, and you have your dreams. And there's only 6 studios, man. There's only 6 agencies, man. This is a small, controlled thing, and I don't like having to beg for the spotlight, man. You know, the machine is good for us, and we good for the machine, and it should be fair, man. It should be fair.
What did you find in Africa that was an antidote to that?
In Africa? Well, a lot of things. First of all, I'm a Muslim. I don't necessarily practice the way a good Muslim is supposed to practice, but I believe in these tenets. And in Africa, there's a small community of people that don't know anything about the work I do, and they just treat me like I'm a regular dude. So I knew that in Africa I'd have a place to sleep, and that I wouldn't have to feel strange. And, you know, when they would call me crackhead and all these things in the country where I'm from, in Africa, they didn't know anything. They was feeding me and taking care of me and taking me to the mall and just regular stuff. And it just made me feel good. It just reminded me that I was a person, you know. I didn't even know they were saying those things about me. Then I call home, and people be like, "Oh my God, are you all right?" "Yeah, chill, I'm in Africa, baby, what's going on?" And then I got a call from a journalist that had been working on a story, and he was like, "Yeah, rumor mill's going on about you. Just want to clear a few things up." And I'm like, "Yeah, what's going on?" "Okay, do you smoke crack?" I said, "What? Do you smoke crack? Did you graduate from high school?" I mean, it was all these crazy questions. And I thought about never coming back. I said, this place is crazy. Like, I'm that dude. I just thought about all the things that celebrities go through and what celebrities become in our culture. You know, if you Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston and your marriage is breaking up, that's an awful thing. But to see that speculation in people gotta sting a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh my God, I'm one of those people. That's a small club, man. That's a weird place to be. Ain't really no going back. You can't get unfamous. You can get infamous, right, but you can't get unfamous.
Right.
So I got scared. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I was scared to death, and I didn't touch the mic. But you know what was cool, man? The first time I went back out and did stand-up, I was in Cincinnati, so it's not far from the farm. I said, if I gotta run, I can get home fast. And club sold out real fast. I played a comedy club. And man, when I walked out on that stage and them people were screaming, I get teary-eyed just thinking about it. Because this industry can say whatever they want, but man, people will hold you up. And that crowd, man, my spirits were so low when they was just holding me up. And I hadn't told jokes, but that shit was just coming back like, Karate Kid again. You're the best around. I was just doing it, man. So I don't know how this whole Dave Chappelle thing is going to end, but I feel like I'm going to be some kind of parable by either what you're supposed to do or what you're not supposed to. So I'm going to be something. I'm either going to be a legend or just that tragic story, but I'm going full throttle. I'm going all the way. I'm eager to find out how this will resolve itself.
Now we're going to talk about Chappelle's show, that extraordinary
The way the show came about was real weird, because me and Neil, after Half-Baked, went our separate ways. We were good friends, but it was just like leaving a crime scene or something. And then I was sitting out on that farm rotting, and it was weird. I was watching this thing about Hugh Hefner having Playboy After Dark. I said, I should do a show like that. It's weird. I said, let me call Neil up. We started talking about variety shows. We wanted to do something that was real personal. It was just, I don't know, it's just the word personal kept coming up.
How long did it take you to produce a show?
The show was a monster. You know, we did the show, we first come up with the format, we're like, man, why hasn't anyone ever done a show like this before? I mean, 18-hour days. We writing it. We write. We look at casting tapes. We look at locations. Every element of the show, man. The show was real micromanaged, and it was coming through two dudes.
One of the most famous characters appeared in the very first show. Who is Clayton Bigsby?
He's a guy that writes all this subversive white supremacist literature. So he do this thing where it's like a frontline piece. So they go out into the mountains to meet him, and they find out he's blind and he's black.
And doesn't know that he's black.
He has no idea.
And he is a vicious racist, right?
Correct.
By any measure, opening the series with Bigsby was a gamble.
Yeah, let me tell you, putting something like that out there is scary, man. That show is like, listen, if you don't like that, you're not going to like the show.
It was a good test, right?
Not a test as much as a manifesto or a mission statement.
You have to see Bigsby to believe it. I wonder, Dave, if you permit me to speak to Clayton for just a moment.
All right, at your own risk.
I've been at risk since you walked out on this stage. I'm happy. Mr. Bigsby.
What do you want, Jew?
I hope, Mr. Bigsby, that you'll forgive me for raising a sensitive issue, but we know from the Frontline documentary that you did discover that you are, how shall I put it, not white. How has that changed your life?
Well, it's changed my life in several ways. First of all, I understand why my penis is so long.
Well, I would say that's an advantage to being black.
Yes, it is. Other than that, the advantages have gone down tremendously.
I see. Has your realization in any way affected or softened your attitude toward our black brothers and sisters?
Absolutely. Now I have tasted brown sugar and I will never go back.
Have you stayed in touch with your friends in the KKK?
We still write and call each other from time to time. It's a little weird, though, knowing that they knew the whole time I was black. Never told me anything about that. Don't think a real good friend would do something like that, do you?
That's true. Tell me, do you miss the warmth of those cross burnings?
Well, the food was good.
What kind of food would you have at a cross burning, for example?
Hot dogs.
Really? Really?
Chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, it's much better hanging out with fellow colored people of color. Excuse me.
Yes.
Yes, it is. The music is better, turns out.
That's true. God knows, yeah.
Yes, and I have learned to love spice.
I see. So you've turned your back on music like the Tennessee Waltz, for example.
Sometimes I listen to it, mostly when I masturbate. I'm sorry, I don't know what that means.
Dave, I have this strange feeling of déjà vu. this strange feeling that somehow, somewhere, you and I have met before?
Oh.
In the interest of our research, where did you ever get the idea for that extraordinary sketch?
Well, you know, man, I tell you, I'm a big fan of your show. And to be honest, I never envisioned myself being on the show just because I always thought my body at work stunk. You know, I see guys like Morgan Freeman on here, dudes who've done like a lot of real good movies. And because all I ever did was comedies, I figured, you know, nobody likes comedies like that. So I figured I'd just never be on.
So you figured you were safe?
Right, right. Hey, well, you know, I figured I'd just pretend that I'd done some good movies. And that I'd be on the show.
And who's that fellow who's doing somebody who resembles me almost as much as Will Ferrell does?
It's this guy, Bill Bogert, who was actually the dad in War Games.
I have one final question about inside Chappelle's show studio.
Okay.
Where are my fucking royalties?
All right, Lipton. They haven't taken all the money back yet, baby. Hang on. That's $200 for you.
That's $200. I'll just keep that right here.
I'm kind of rich, bitch.
In the title sequence of Chappelle's show, you occasionally dance. As you may know, if you've watched the show, dance is one of the hallowed traditions of this series. I never lose an opportunity to invite a guest to bust a move for our students. Besides, Dave, the way I look at it, you owe me one.
Boy, this is tough. I've been dancing for white folks for 17 years, man.
One more white folk asking you to dance.
I know, I can't bust it out. All right, I'll do one move for you.
One move.
But if I pass it to you, you gotta take it. Come on, man, we got it. We can do this. Let's make history, man. Everybody dancing on the show, but you don't never dance with nobody. Come on, let me be the guy. All right, we'll just chair dance. You ever chair dance? All right, just take it when here it comes. Oh, 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 oh.
Okay, I studied ballet for years. I'll give it back to you.
Oh, don't forget. You talking about the school of the arts. You talking about some ballet. Don't have me doing some of this shit.
Okay.
Oh, hold up. You don't know nothing about this, though, do you? Oh, snap.
You're fucking with somebody who...
Now, you know by the end of it, man, you're gonna be, From Beat Street.
Right. Who was the inspiration for I Want to Piss on You? Was that serious enough? Was that in character?
That was hilarious. Just the fact that you said that just makes me like, life is a trip. Life is a trip. Well, you know, the R. Kelly scandal happened, which initially I wasn't going to touch. You know, I'm a R. Kelly fan, But I said, but it would be funny if you had R&B singers singing about, like, pissing on people. And we started cracking up laughing. You know, whenever we start cracking up laughing, you know, it's like, this feels funny.
Yeah. I think that R. Kelly has as big a beef with you as I do. Who wrote Charlie Murphy's True Hollywood Stories?
During the first season, I kept saying, I want to do something about Rick James, but I had nothing. And then, you know, Charlie Murphy, he tells these crazy stories at lunch. The short answer is Charlie Murphy wrote it because he told that story.
It provided this series with its, of course, most famous line.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
While Dave was shooting Chappelle's show, Richard Pryor's wife spoke for her husband because MS had deprived him of the ability to communicate. And what she said was that Richard Pryor felt that he had passed the torch to Dave Chappelle. Were you aware of that?
Yeah, it was.
Now we've lost Richard Pryor. What did he mean to you? What did he mean to American comedy?
You know those, like, evolution charts
Yes?
of man?
Yeah?
He was the dude walking upright.
I got you.
Richard was the highest evolution of comedy. There was an article I had read after he died that I think said it best. The mark of greatness is when everything before you is obsolete and everything after you bears your mark. What a precedent he set, not just as a comic, but as a dude. The fact that someone was able to open themselves wide open like that. And it's so hard to talk in front of people or to open yourself up to your closest friends, but to open yourself up for everybody.
Yeah.
I freebase. I beat my women. I shot my car. And nobody's mad at Richard for that. They understand. Somehow they just understand. And when I was going through this thing this year, that is the example I would think to myself that gave me the courage to just go back on the stage.
There's no way of knowing which of Dave's sketches were Pryor's favorites, but I strongly suspect that this would have been one of them. I'm from Detroit, and where and when I grew up, the N-word was a very powerful and brutal weapon. For me, it's still the ugliest word in the English language. Does making it a commonplace, as you have on occasion in your work, does it empty it of any of its venom, or is the venom still there?
I'm going to have to say that if used incorrectly, that the venom's still there. That word could still start a fight. I've had situations where when white people will come up to me, they'll be like, that sketch you did about the niggers was great. And I'll be like, ooh, I want to fight you.
It sounds different on alien lips.
Yeah, man. I still say it in personal conversation with my friends. I say it sometimes on stage at the comedy club. And I'm not going to make a promise that I won't say it again on television. But right now, I just feel like people aren't responsible enough. Certain things I've been through in the last year, and certain things I've heard people say. And also, all the older black women in my family been tearing me a new asshole for saying it. Like they really get on me about it, and you know, but it opened up a dialogue with us we've never had before.
For the record, the DVD of the first season of Chappelle's show is the best-selling TV to DVD set ever. These shows are jewels. What is Block Party?
Man, one of the first things I did when I made this big deal is I called my friend Corey over here. I met Corey in Ohio. He was working with De La Soul at the time. The concept became, let's do a block party. And I mean, everyone came out. Kweli came out, Common came out, Most came out, Erykah Badu, Jill Scott, The Roots, and then to top it all off, the Fugees reunited. It was one of the most amazing experiences in my career. I mean, it's literally like it was a concert I always wanted to see. These are all my favorite musicians. They were making the kind of music they wanted to make. They were having fun. They were all friends. I was like, man, you can do that. So when I got my chance to do what I wanted to do, I put them in it. I look at them, that's my life, man. These guys are like my friends and they're my inspiration.
We begin our classroom with the questionnaire that was invented and used for 26 glorious years by Bernard Pivot. Dave, what is your favorite word?
Shit.
What is your least favorite word?
No.
What turns you on?
I'm an ass, man. I like girls with the titties and ass.
We've had more honesty per square inch on this evening than we've had in 12 years. What turns you off?
I don't know. Hair?
What sound or noise do you love?
Crickets.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Kids crying.
Dave Chappelle, what's your favorite curse word?
Is my favorite. Like, I say it a lot. You know, yeah, I say that a lot.
What?
But I'm trying not to curse anymore.
Are you really?
Nah, I was with you.
That was damn near perfect.
Yeah, I know. We got to do something together.
I'm good. I'm good, straight man.
Hey, I'm doing like a cop movie or something.
That's right. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
You know, I always thought about being a teacher, actually. Which sounds real corny, but I feel like I could stand up in front of the class, I could tell them stuff, and they might actually, I don't know, learn something.
That's what you've been doing all evening, right? Yeah. What profession would you not like to participate in?
At this point, having not worked in so many months, it's hard to say what I wouldn't want to do. I need a job.
Why don't I believe you? Finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Congratulations, Bill, you're a law. I want
Okay, Dave, here are your students.
I know, that's crazy.
Hi, my name's Carlos Cabrera. I study English here at Pace.
Did you bring that mic from home? We just pulled it out.
You know, you have Chappelle's show, this almost like overnight success. Do you still feel that it was kind of maybe too much all at once, or do you feel that, again, with the decades worth of work, that it was just?
Was it too much at once?
Or do you feel it was deserved? Which it was?
No, I deserve something. I mean, literally, deserve is deserved is a tough word, but the show it all seemed like a logical progression. You know, like, I could have pulled a LeBron and exploded when I was a kid, but it didn't happen that way, and I'm probably better for it. Like, had I got that kind of, I'm 32 when I went to Africa, so I can only imagine what would happen if I was like 19 and had Chappelle's show. Or if I could even handle it. It's a tremendous responsibility having a show like that. But everything's going fine, I think, till season 3. I mean, and it wasn't the fame that got to me. I love people. I like people saying that they like what I do, and you know, there's just a whole, you know, it's like an economic threshold you cross, man. You know, they had thrown out numbers like $50 million. You put that in the paper next to your name, then that guy's going to have some serious problems in his personal life. There's no question. You know, I like to live a more open life. I don't like to have to protect myself from people. I don't want my life to become about enforcing boundaries, you know, but that's what happens when you become successful. Your humanity diminishes and you become something else to people. You ever see the cartoons where they're hungry and he looks over at his buddy and his buddy look like a chicken dinner? That's kind of like, it's kind of like that.
How you doing, Dave?
Hey, man.
My name is Kasim Bristow. I'm a third-year actor here at Pace University. I just want to know, who were your early inspirations besides Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy?
You know what was a big influence on me that is really weird is Bugs Bunny. Which is weird. If you watch a lot of the stuff I do, you can almost see the influence in it. Because these animators would animate these performances that were off the hook. And the guy that did the voices was Mel Blanc. This guy was like some kind of savant or genius or something. But they had some kind of real big comedic influence on me. Like, I like those cartoons. I think that was my first real big comedy influence, was a rabbit.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Skylar Jessica Edmond. I'm a freshman studying forensic science. You just real cool and down to earth. Like, what do you think it is? What exactly do you think it is that just keeps you there? Like, I am cool, I got money, but that's all right.
Skylar, I'm going through some real tough, real times, some nitty-gritty stuff. When you go through things like this, it helps you put it all in perspective. I'm famous today. People like me today. You might not like me tomorrow. You never know. You can't count on it. The world can't tell you who you are. You just got to figure out who you are and be that, for better or for worse.
My name is Anthony Lozano. I'm a marketing major here at Pace. My question for you is, how do you deal with people who may claim that you are crossing lines that you shouldn't necessarily be crossing?
You know, I don't deal with them. Like, I think that America needs an honest discourse with itself. It's like the greatest country in the world by default. You know what I mean? But we could actually be the greatest country that ever existed if we were just honest about who we are and what we are and where we want to go, and if we learn how to have that discourse. Things like racism are institutionalized. It's systemic. You might not know any bigots. You feel like, well, I don't hate black people, so I'm not a racist. But you benefit from racism just by the merit of the color of your skin. There's opportunities that you have. You're privileged in ways that you may not even realize because you haven't been deprived in certain ways. We need to talk about these things in order for them to change. I do the show. I walk down the street, black people like it, white people, the generations, it doesn't matter, because it needs to be talked about. It's like the elephant in the living room that nobody says anything about. So when the Bigsby thing came out, there was a lady from Texas that called Comedy Central, I mean, damn near 100 times. She was furious with me. I wasn't mad at her for being mad at me. It's like, okay, that's good, you know. Not good that she's mad at me, but she's entitled to her opinion. And maybe she's right. I don't know. I just thought it was funny. That's what I did. I'm a comedian, man. That's how I look at the world, and that's what I'm spitting out. So I don't judge people or not like people for thinking. People that I love tell me I go too far sometimes. Maybe I went too far, but I did it. You know. And plus, the only way you know where the line is to cross it. And I think that what is life if nobody's crossing the line? You just want to try to be on the right side of history, and sometimes what's going on in the immediate present is not as important as the long term. The truth is permanent, and then everything else falls by the wayside.